Mr. Chairman, distinguished members, thank you for this opportunity. The only true consequence we have to slow down and discourage people from coming into the United States illegally is sending them back to their country of origin. Throughout the first 3+ years of this administration, I saw a steady decrease in the countries we could send people back to. For the first time in my 25 years, and under 5 different administrations, whether through neglect or on purpose, I saw a large-scale lapse in our ability to return people to their country of origin. The inability to send people home meant that most people being arrested for illegal entry would either have to be detained or released. The current administration, however, from day one, made a point of decreasing the amount of detention space available nationwide. Immigration and Customs Enforcement's funding for detention has steadily been cut and private detention eliminated. The fact that so many illegal aliens are being released into the United States spread worldwide very quickly. As this happened, the numbers the Border Patrol encountered illegally crossing the border increased exponentially. The impact to me and my agents were significant. Sectors were ordered to take in and process all the illegal aliens encountered on the border. The Border Patrol saw groups of hundreds and thousands coming into the United States and turning themselves in. These numbers pulled 80, 90, sometimes 100% of the agents on duty away from the border. Border Patrol zones across Texas, Arizona, and California had no agent presence for weeks and months at a time. Those who did not want to be caught could simply walk in. We have no idea who and what entered our country over this time. Throughout 2022 and 23, I sent agents to Texas and Arizona to count gotaways. Those sectors could not even put enough agents in the field to see what they'd missed. Simultaneously, in San Diego, we had an exponential increase in significant interest aliens. These are aliens with significant ties to terrorism. Prior to this administration, the San Diego sector averaged 10 to 15 SIA arrests per year. Once word was out the border was far easier to cross, San Diego went to over 100 SIAs in 2022, well over that in 2023, and even more than that registered this year. These are only the ones we caught. At the time, I was told I could not release any information on this increase in SIAs or mention any of the arrests. The administration was trying to convince the public there was no threat at the border. Fentanyl is another issue. The San Diego area sees between 80 and 90% of the methamphetamine and fentanyl seizures annually for our entire country. With little enforcement at the border, these drugs were coming through en masse. During my last year in San Diego, the price for a single pill of fentanyl, for example, went from $10 to 25 cents. To make matters worse, during 2022 and 23, I had to shut down San Diego traffic checkpoints, which are critical for drug interdiction, because the resources had been diverted to the process and release mission. The large numbers also had and still have a negative impact on the San Diego community. I had to release illegal aliens by the hundreds each day into communities who could not support them. To quiet the problem, 2 flights a week were provided from San Diego to Texas. These flights simply brought aliens that would have been released in San Diego over to Texas. Each flight cost approximately $150,000. This was the administration's way to try and quiet the border-wide crisis. Once these flights were stopped and the releases continued, California saw the true economic impact. I received calls from the governor's office, local mayors, and hospital administrators asking me if we could keep injured aliens in custody so the federal government would pay the medical bills. Through pressure from the administration, my headquarters became more interested in the fiction that being portrayed in the media and not at all concerned with reality. Each time we asked for help in dealing with a new issue, it fell on deaf ears. At times in San Diego, we had 2,000 or more aliens sitting in between the fences asking to turn themselves in. I was told to move them out of sight of the media. Meanwhile, Border Patrol agents are continually forgotten and neglected by the media and this administration. These agents deal with death, women and children that have been raped, abused, trafficked, bought and sold, families that have spent months in terrible conditions, sickness, and despair. If you look at the dramatic rise in the number of suicides within the Border Patrol, it is directly correlated with the migrant surge. The agents have been pushed beyond their limit, and this has greatly impacted their physical and mental health. While current numbers of aliens crossing our border are lower in comparison in recent months, there's a reason for this. After nearly 4 years, this administration finally started to ask Mexico for help in slowing down the traffic through their country. This and other actions make a difference, but why has it taken so long? All of these tactics were being used before this administration took office, but this administration stopped or greatly limited them. I'm also concerned this will not be maintained. The problems we are facing at the border have solutions. These solutions can be quite simple and cost far less than the mess currently occupying so much time and money. The return to a policy of enforcing the law and returning illegal aliens to their home countries is required. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heitke. I now recognize Ms. Moore for 5 minutes to summarize her opening statement. Mr. Heitke, you served as the last job, you were the sector chief of one of our 9 southwest border sectors. And I think you said you worked for 25 years in the Border Patrol under 5 different administrations. And looking at your statement, you said this was the first time under 5 administrations, whether through neglect or on purpose, I saw large-scale lapses in our ability to return people to their country of origin. You then went on and talked about detention and how detention bed space was intentionally decreased and private detention was essentially done away with. You said that word got out and then the masses came, essentially. I'm paraphrasing you. But I want to go back to your comment about whether it was neglectful or purposeful, because if you intentionally stop returning people, that's not something you just, neglect. And you intentionally decrease detention, those things that actually decrease the incentive for people to come here. That sounds purposeful to me. So would you answer? I mean, do you think it's neglect, or do you think this was purposeful, designed to be this way?
I believe that the actions were purposeful, yes, sir. Many people don't understand that we can't simply fill a plane full of nationals from a certain country and fly them home. It takes agreements with that country. It takes diplomacy with the State Department to make those arrangements. And they're long-term arrangements. It takes diplomacy over months and years.
But purposeful.
But purposeful.
Purposeful, okay. So you mentioned, too, that there were massive periods of time when the border was just left completely open because the agents had to be pulled and you were directed to do this. And how long were those agents just completely off the border and miles of the border wide open?
There were weeks and even months at a time between Texas and parts of Arizona and California.
And I assume that's, we want to look at these 8 ISIS folks that were caught in New York. I guess some of them actually crossed at a crossing. They filled out the CBP-1 app, 3 of them, and came into the country and were going to blow up an LGBTQ place in Philadelphia. But, I mean, those people that crossed during that time, any guarantees that they're not out there to do harm to the country?
No, sir, no guarantees.
Yeah, you agree with the FBI director then. You mentioned twice in your testimony, too, I find it fascinating that because it was overwhelming San Diego, the administration actually created, for the cost of $150,000, plane flights to Texas of all these people as a way to keep it quiet. And then you mentioned, too, there was one point where you had like 2,000 aliens and the administration directed you to move them out of sight of the media. Can you kind of clarify that a little bit?
Yes, sir. Groups were coming in to turn themselves over faster than we could keep up. We only had so much space. We keep people within our stations. There's no other place to put them in while they're being processed. And they were building up. The media was showing them sitting in between the fences, and it looked bad, and they wanted them moved. I had no place to put them, and so they simply told me—
Why would they want to hide that? Why wouldn't they want the world to know what's going on? Why would they want to hide that? Why would they want to spend $150,000 to fly them to Texas to keep people from seeing the mass waves? Why?
It looks bad. When I asked about the flights to Texas, I was very specifically told there's a problem in Texas, there isn't a problem in California.
Wow. So purposeful policies wreaking havoc on a community, and we'll just hide it. Perfect. Thank you.
From breaking news, detailed analysis, in-depth interviews, and explainers, follow the Times of India. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like our videos and hit the bell icon to stay updated with the latest.